Everyone. Good evening. Hope you all are doing well and preparing for the CAT with a lot of enthusiasm. And we are, of course, continuing with a lot of CAT questions discussion. After all, what has come in the CAT in the past has been repeated. Actual questions have been repeated, question types have been repeated. So it's really always a good idea to stay on top of your preparation by doing some CAT questions, right? So today we are going to do some DILR questions. But before that, a quick introduction. Hi, I'm Munira Lokhandwala, and I'm Calcutta alumna, a serial 100 percentiler in the CAT and a 99 percentiler in the GMAT. I also have a CAT verbal book published by Wiley and available on Amazon. And whoops, yeah. You can find me on the Unacademy Crack Cat channel, and we have really taken a humongous number of questions across various CAT papers. We have looked at good approaches and great techniques, so I just hope you check out those videos. Besides that, guys, I'm taking a lot of special classes and plus classes on the Unacademy app. So first thing, go to the Google Play Store. वहाँ पे search for Unacademy Learning app, download and install it. और उसके अंदर, guys, you have to choose CAT as your goal and plus as a subscription, right? So there are numerous advantages when you sign up for Unacademy Plus courses, guys. You're eligible for a lot of free courses, special classes as well. And at the same time, you can take part in any of the tests, any of the analysis. And it's not just CAT that we're talking about. We are also doing a lot of batches on XAT, on SNAP, NMAT, CET as well. And we have really the best educators from across the country. You will not find such a great range, such great quality, a lot of 100 percentilers teaching. Besides me, there are people who have, scored 100 percentile even in the recent years, right? So it's really a great platform for your learning. So do subscribe, guys, as soon as you can. There are other reasons also. Here are two more of those. So first of all, we have started the National Scholarship Test from 18th October. Every Sunday, we will pick up one of the sections of the CAT and we are going to run a test from 5 to 5:40, right? So this Sunday on the 8th of November, we are going to have the Quant section. We have had the Quant, the verbal and the DILR section already once. So this Sunday back to Quant, right? I'm sure this is the favorite section for some of us. So there are a lot of reasons why the National Scholarship Test is the test to take. I'm not exaggerating, guys. It's the best test to take. Here are some of the reasons. First of all, the test is well designed, right? It's well structured. It has been given a lot of thought by looking at previous papers patterns. Second, your score and your rank, because it is an open test, right? Because anyone across the country can take it. Your score and your rank will be very relevant. It will also be relevant because it's just around 4 weeks for the CAT, right? So you can take this rank and understand how you are doing in your CAT preparation, right? Third reason is you get great insights during analysis. So every Sunday, one of our great instructors, right, they analyze a test for you, and usually there are some good approaches, some good ways of looking at questions. And finally, all these things are good, right? But as someone would say, you should put your mouth where your money is. Or is it put your money where your mouth is? So yeah, it is 5,000 rupees. Top 50 scorers get up to 5,000 rupees ka voucher. So yeah, you should put your test where your money is, and this is where the money is, right? So guys, imagine there are a lot of obvious advantages. If you're a serious CAT aspirant, you don't even need this. This is just like the icing on your cake, correct? So ये सब तो reason है ही. At the same time, you can make some Diwali money for yourself, right? So don't wait now. I think you should just pause this video, go enroll for the test, and then come back and continue with the video, right? Another reason why you should go for Unacademy Plus course, guys, is 3 great teachers, if I can call myself that. Professor Pratik Ambastha, right? Munira Lokhandwala, hi. And Professor Bobby Yadav. We are starting a course for the CAT 2021 batch starting on the November 4th. And every weekday from Monday to Friday, we are going to take sessions. And if you're a student, then this kind of timings will really work very well for you. And we are going to do the course in short capsules. At the same time, we are going to cover everything in detail. So your preparation will go off to flying start, right? So with subscription to go for, guys, we can talk about it towards the end of the session. You can use my code Munira10 to get a great discount. So here is the puzzle. I always give a puzzle at the end of a lecture and we solve that puzzle during the beginning of the lecture, right? So let's say this is the center. What do we know? That the original ye wala jo circle hai, correct? This circle, iska diameter is 2, which means the radius is 1. This radius is 1. Then you are drawing 4 other semicircles using the side of the square as a diameter. Right? And then you have to find the shaded area. So how will we find the shaded area? We will find the semicircle area, and from that we will subtract this region. To find this region, we will have to find the area of the quarter circle, and from that subtract the right angle triangle. So let's just focus on one of the shaded areas. So let's say 1 times the shaded area, right? That is equal to your semicircle minus, I would like to say, the crescent, right? This white region, this is the crescent. The crescent itself, I can rewrite the crescent itself as the quarter circle minus the right angle triangle, right? So great, let's start working on each of these aspects. Semicircle is going to be half of pi, right, into the radius. Now what is the radius? We know that 1 is the radius of the, this circle, the original circle jiske andar square is inscribed, correct? So ye hai 1, ye hai 1. The side of the square is going to be root 2. Side is going to be root 2. Okay. Now the radius of the semicircle is half of the side. So that is going to be root 2 by 2. So it is going to be root 2 by 2 the whole square. Okay. The quarter circle is nothing but radius is 1. So pi r square ka 1/4. So it's pi by 4. Minus the right angle triangle, which is half into 1 into 1. So that's it. We have got everything. Of course, this is one of the shaded area. Last may we'll multiply by 4. But as of right now, let's keep this as it is. So you get 2 pi by 4 and 2, 8. Minus pi by 4 minus half. So this is also pi by 4. This is also pi by 4. This will give the area of half. Right? Because minus half is plus half. Whole area is going to be half into 4, so you will get answer as 2. So generally when we solve such questions, right, we think the answer will be of the form pi minus something, right, or something minus pi. You will get a rational term and an irrational term. But here, as you can see, because of the double cancellation, you end up with a completely rational term. Your answer is 2. Right, that's your answer. Great. Let's look at some DILR. So यहाँ पे this DILR section had 55 questions, and we did some of them in the morning, and I told you all that out of the 55 questions, a resounding 24, guys, it's close to half, were completely based on formal logic and Venn diagrams. And then you had 10 of them on data sufficiency. The remaining, which is 21, were mostly data interpretation questions. So, they substituted this for LR, right? And the data interpretation also is not very easy. You had to do a reasonable number of calculations. And this is life before the calculator, right? So great, let's understand the next set and start off with our calculations. Let me get rid of this. Okay. Relating to India's foreign trade in 97-98 and the first 8 months of 98-99. Okay. तो 97-98 का पूरा डेटा है, 98-99 का only 8 months. Total trade with a region is defined as the sum of exports and imports. So total trade with a region is basically both exports and import. Trade deficit is defined as the excess of imports over exports. So it's I minus E. Imports over exports. Trade deficit may be negative. So A, B, C, D till K, that's basically your 11 regions. And they are here in a pie chart. Okay. So you can see in 97-98 mein exports from India was so much. This is actual data, guys. Out of which, you know, A region took 19%. What is A region? A region is USA, correct? B region took 6%, right? Exports, we exported 6% to B. What was B? Germany. So this is how these ABC relate to these guys. Okay. And 98-99 में पूरे साल का exports we don't have. We have only 8 months का. Similarly, imports we have 40,000 from these various countries, and imports in the next year for 8 months is 28,000. And the breakup is given for these 11 regions. Sorry, and 11 regions are given here. So great, let's start looking at questions. You have 4 questions here, and then you have another 2 with a little bit of extra information. So there are 6 questions in this set. Okay, so let's start off. What is the region with which India had the highest total trade in 97-98? So there is USA, EU, OPEC, and others. Okay, so USA, EU, and EU is other EU, right? So USA, A, C, H, and K. Yeah, A, C, H, and K. Uska we need to find out total trade. So let's write that down. Okay, for A, C, H, and K. Okay. So A, we see that the exports takes up 19% and imports take up 9%. I'm just writing for our benefit. While solving, you will not write this down. The reason I'm writing down these values is I don't want to calculate for all 4. I'll only pick up the close ones for calculation. So ideally, you can just add them up, right? 19 plus 9 is 28. But the problem is that the base is not the same, so you can't add it up. If they were, you know, close enough, अगर यहाँ 33 होता और यहाँ पे अगर 35 होता, I would still have added up. But 33 and 40 are reasonably different. It's more or less a ratio of something like 4:5, 32 and 40, right? In fact, a little, yeah, close to 4:5 is a good ratio to look at. So forget all this. We'll just look at the numbers as it is. A ka it is 19 and 9. C is 14 and 12. Okay. So here it's 5% less and here it is 3% more. H. So if I now look at H, H is 10% and here H is 23%. Oh my God. Okay. And finally K, if we check out, K is 1% here and 1% there. So definitely we can get rid of K. Okay. Now let's check this one. So 5% difference in 33, so 34,000 if I work with, it's very close to 34. Iska 5%, right? And forget the thousands. This works out to 170. And here the 3% difference of 40,000 works out to 12. So this is greater. This 5% ka jump is a 170 ka jump. Whereas this is, you know, 12, say 13, even if you take 41, it's not going to change a lot, right? So A is more than C. So we can get rid of A. Right? Great. Now between A and H, you have 9% So this is a little more than double, correct? So you have 9% of 34,000. So coming to 9 into 34, this works out to 306. And here you have 18 of 40. Okay, 18 of 40 works out to 720. So clearly, and I think this is more or less obvious, that H is more than A. Correct? So answer here will be OPEC. In 97-98, the amount of Indian exports to the region with which India had the lowest trade is approximately. So already we have an idea where India had the lowest trade, right? We found out that K is where it had the lowest trade because it's 1% for both. But let us just quickly check out. Okay, so A, B, C, D, E, F, no 1% here except K. Coming back to this, 9, 5, blah, 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 right? And all of them are there. So if there's a 0, it may not be there. You need to check that all of them are present, right? G, H, I, J, K. So it is 1% of 34 and 40, which is 1% of 74,000, right? So you can just take around 740, 750. So answer is the first option, 750. And remember, it's a total trade, right? So these other options are there for people who just get confused between only exports, only imports, etc. In 97-98, the trade deficit with respect to India, okay, billion US dollars for the region with the highest trade deficit with respect to India is approximately equal to. Okay, so highest trade deficit with respect to India is what? Which country? First of all, that's what we need to find out. So what is the trade deficit? Trade deficit is imports minus exports. I need to find the highest, right? Which means that if I'm looking at negative numbers also, I'm going to look for at least something that's positive. Okay, so let us look for something that is positive. So what is a trade deficit, guys? It is imports minus exports. If I want this to be positive, then I want imports to be more than exports. So as we know, right, it's more or less a 4:5 ratio. US, it is not more. This is 5%, 6%, not more, right? If this number is more, और किसी ना किसी का तो बड़ा ही होगा. Remember, if all of them are distributed equally both the times, then both for each and every region you will have equal percentage. But if somewhere 19 or 9 में 9 कम है 19 से, तो कोई और country का बड़ा होगा. We need to find that bigger country. So C is also less, D is equal, E is less, F is less, G is a good contender. And then of course there is H. So there is G, H, I is less, J is less, and K also doesn't do. So let's find out trade deficit with respect to G and with respect to H. And we'll just approximate with 34 here and 41 here, let us say 41,000. Okay, because then both of us, we are actually approximating to the upper 1,000. So G is 41 into 19, 40 into 19 is 76, so that's 779. Imports minus exports is easy, that is 340. So this works out to 439. H on the other hand, right, is 23 into 41. So H, both are equal, right? H will have a greater, in fact, we should not even have calculated it. यहाँ पे दोनों 10 और 10 है. So greater trade deficit will occur with the greater number here. So 23 into 41, 23 into 40 is 920, right? And 23 ones are, so 943 minus 340. So we are looking at a 6.0 something, right? So when you check for 6.0, you have an option that is your answer. So guys, I've told you all a lot of times, don't bother with the number of zeros unless there are options where the number of zeros are different, right? And if you see across, there are no such options. So what is the region with the lowest trade deficit with India in 97-98? Now, as I said, the trade deficit can be negative, right? So you need a country where the exports are far more than the imports, right? So let's go back and check where the exports are more than imports, right? So US is a good contender because 19% here and 9% there. So we'll keep this in mind. Then you have, this is slightly more, just a 1% difference. So we'll ignore B. This is also just a 2% difference. So mostly it's going to be US only. Let's quickly just check the other 6. And this is in fact 6 and 5 again, like B. That's another reason why that won't be the answer. You have 2 equals, right? 3 and 2, 10, 19 will not work. These are of course on the other side. 20 and 14 is another contender. Right? But you can clearly see that here there's a gap of 10%, whereas here this is just a 6% gap. This has increased by 1 on 19, this has increased by far more. So the US will have the greater, in fact, the greater negative number, which is the lower trade deficit, right? So answer here is option 1, USA. Right? Moving on to the next 2 questions where there's extra information. So assume that the average monthly exports from India and imports to India for the 4 months is the same as the first 8 months. So remember, right, when we did this data, until now we have only worked with 97, 98. 98, 99 is only for 8 months. So we now have to assume that these 8 months में जो भी हुआ उतना ही next 4 months में होगा. So our implications, right, is that the values also will increase. Agar in 8 months you have had 21,436, then in the next 4 months you're going to make half of this, right? So this is 10718. So you'll end up with exports of 32154, right? So this is your exports. Imports ke bhi similar calculations you'll have to do. That imports are 28126 for the first 8 months. So the next 4 months will be half, and totally for the full year you are going to have 42189, right? So these are your new exports and imports figure. Now let's look at questions. What is the region to which India's exports registered the highest percentage growth between 97-98 and 98-99? So here we have to actually look at the highest percentage growth, but these calculations are based on different numbers. So US, for example, if I'm looking at exports, 19% is based on 33,000, but yahan you're going to base the exports 23% on 32,000. Okay, so if I want highest percentage growth, the smaller the number, obviously the better, right? And as usual, we will not calculate till the last minute. So let's see. You have other Eastern European countries, Asia and USA. These 3 we have to check for. Okay, so let's pick up so G, US is A and Asia is I. So we have to check for A, G and I. If none of them work, then we will go for option D. So we'll check for A, G and I, guys. ठीक है, तो A क्या होगा? A moves from 19%, and we can just approximate, right, of 34,000 to 9% of 32,000. So US, you have not had growth. You can see that straight away. दोनों numbers कम हुए, percentage भी कम हुआ है, and this also has reduced. Okay, let's check for G. What do we have for G? 10%. This is interesting. 19%. So 10% of 34,000 is 340. I'm straight away going to calculate because there's definitely Oh, wait, no, 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 no. I'm looking at the other graph. Just a second. Let me just go back and check the USA. Okay, so we are mostly good till here. For 97, 98, it is this graph, and for 98, 99, it is this graph. So 23% of 32,000. So we'll keep this as it is. There is definitely some increase. Let's keep it. Let us check for G. 10%, right, of 34,000. And this increases in the ratio 5:6. So 12% of 32,000. Whereas this decreases in a smaller ratio, 17:16. So यहाँ पे definitely there is an increase. Let us check for I now. So I, though we can see, correct, 20%, 17%. So I, we don't need to check. We need to just check for these two numbers. Okay. So now we'll have to do the maths. This is 340. And this is 32 and 64. This is 384. So you have a change of 44 on 320. Let's keep this. Let's check the US now. So 34 into 19 is 680 minus 34. So that is 646. I hope, yeah, this is good. 23 and 32 is basically 20, 64 and 96. So you have 736. So this is a change of 90 on 646. So the denominator, right, 340 has become 646, has, not even doubled, but the numerator has more than doubled. So US definitely has a greater percentage growth. So little complicated, I know, but this, as I told you, this has been a calculation intensive section only throughout. So between the two of them, it's very clear that USA has had a higher percentage growth, right? Again, let me just reiterate why. The denominator has not even doubled. 340 has not even become 680. But the numerator has more than doubled. So value of the fraction has gone up. And hence, this is a greater fraction than this. This is the USA fraction. So US has had the highest percentage growth in exports. And exports have not declined, right, for all countries. USA, it has definitely increased. What is the percentage growth rate in India's total trade deficit between 97-98 and 98-99? So this is not a very difficult question to do. You may feel as if you have to add up for all countries, but you just have to work with the total pie chart numbers. Okay. So what is the trade deficit for 97-98? And then what is the trade deficit for 98-99? So great. We need some of these numbers. So I'm not going to erase all ink, right? We need these 32,000 and 42,000. Okay. So let's erase everything else. Great, here we are, and now we have to find the trade deficit for 97, 99, 97, 98. So what is the trade deficit, guys? It's imports minus exports, right? It's excess of imports over exports, so it's imports minus exports. And here it's basically 40,000 minus 33,979. So ये सीधा इतना होता तो it would have been 7,000. But it's 200 less than that, so this is 6,800. And it's a positive number because imports is more than exports. Okay, so this is your 97, 98 number. Now we have to find out the 98, 99 number. Right, so we have this is our exports number. This is our imports number. We just need to find the difference, and that difference is 10,000. A little more than 10,000. It is 10,035. So the percentage growth, I guess, is what they want, right? Percentage growth, right? So you have basically a growth of 4,000. Se thoda kam. 3235 on 6,800. This is a little less than 50%, right? Now, if you look at options, 47% is best. Whoa. We did 6 questions, but we took close to 25-30 minutes, right? Because this was without a calculator and calculation intensive. So great, here is the next set. These questions are based on the price fluctuations of 4 commodities. Arhar ki dal, right? Pepper, sugar and gold during Feb to July 99 as described in the figures below. So just pay attention to a few things. Let's quickly see what is important. This is price in rupees per quintal. So all of them have a different y-axis. X-axis sabka same hai. First week of February, second week of February. So let me just, let me just mark it. You see, this is the first week of February, second week of February, third week, fourth week, then first week of March, second week of March, third week of March. So this is all week-wise data. Then June and July. So M is May, April, right? June, July, etc. So ये सब का x-axis same है. But if you check the y-axis, guys, here the y-axis is moving from 1300, 1500 till 2500. Whereas here the y-axis is moving from 17,000, 17,500. So this is in thousands, right? 10,000s in fact, and this is in hundreds. The change is hundreds. Correct? This is a little similar. Sugar follows a similar y-axis like arhar. And gold, which is price per 10 grams, and everything else is price per quintal. Okay. So gold follows a different y-axis completely. Okay, so these things we should pay attention to straight away instead, because then otherwise once you start solving, there's a good chance that you may make some silly mistake, right? So now let's look at questions, guys. Price change of a commodity is defined as the absolute difference in ending and beginning prices expressed as a percentage of the beginning. What is the commodity with the highest price change? Okay, so you want absolute difference. It's not just difference, because if it was only difference, then you would not consider a drop. But because it is absolute difference, you should even consider drops. Okay, so you're going to do ending minus beginning absolute divided by the beginning. This is what you need to do. And there are 4 commodities. Charo char obviously option mein. We'll need to check it out for all of them. So let's go and do that. So, arhar. Arhar starts from around 1700 and ends at around I wouldn't say 2200, let's say 2150. So that's, or 2125 you can say. So that's a change of 425. The reason I'm taking 2125 is because, then they become more or less a very clear ratio. 17 into 25 is 425. So this is like a 25% change. Right? So that's why I took 2125. Now let us look at pepper. So it starts from 18,500 and ends at around 19,250. So that's a 750 ka change on 18,500. So it's not even 10%, right? I hope we can see that. So this goes off. You want the highest percentage change. Now we'll move to sugar, 1440 and ends at 1430. There are very small changes, unlike arhar, which is changing by 200. This is just changing by 20. So anyways, this is, you shouldn't even consider it. Ye yahan se bhi udhar tak jayega, so it is just a 120 change. So you should not do any calculations here. Let's look at gold. Gold also is just a change of 100. So you see, guys, it's so important that here the change is only 200. So if I quickly just check, this is 4250 ending with 3850. That's just a meager 400 on 4000 approximately, close to 10%. So the highest percentage change has been with arhar. Okay, so great. Let's mark that and move on to the next question. Price volatility is defined as follows. Highest price minus lowest price divided by average price. What is the commodity with the lowest price volatility? So already we have a hint, right? Don't we? कि जिसका ग्राफ ही बहुत कम हिलता है, वो कौन सा ग्राफ है? Sugar. Right? So you have to start with sugar, keep that as your benchmark, and then we'll move on to the others. So the highest in sugar is 1500. The lowest in sugar is 1400. So that's a change of 1000. And you know what we'll do? We can't really sit down and find the average. Nobody wants you to do that. I mean, to do that exactly properly, I'll need an assistant, right? So nobody expects you to do that. What we'll do is we'll take the average as the average of highest plus lowest, because it's more or less fluctuating, correct? So this is going to be 1450. This is for sugar. Okay. Now let's do it for the other, commodities as well. So if I check for arhar, what do we get? Highest is 2300. Lowest is 1500. So you have a change of 800. Okay, yeah, this is not. That's what I'm wondering. How come this is 1500 and 1400? It's a change of just 100. Yeah. So you have a change of 800, right? And if I look at the average, 15 and 23 ka, that is 1900. So you can straight away see, right, how low sugar is. Now let's compare this with pepper. Pepper ka lowest comes to around 17,400. Highest is 19,500. So you can say that the difference is close to 2,100 over an average of 18,500. So ये 100 becomes 20 times, right, to 2100. पर ये तो कुछ 20 times नहीं होगा. So this is also not the lowest. Correct? So जो हमारा शुरू का शक था वो सही निकला. It is going to be sugar. But let's just quickly wrap up with this guy. Highest is 4,300, lowest is 3,800. That's a difference of 500 divided by the average, which is 4,050. It's a 10% thing, and this is less than 10%, guys. So it is sugar, and they want a percentage here. No, they just want. So answer is sugar. Mr. X, a fund manager, invested 25% of his funds in each of the 4 commodities at the beginning of the period. Okay, so he invested equal amounts. 25% means equal amounts. He sold the commodities at the end of the period. His investments in the commodities resulted in. So you have to understand, guys, that he invested equal amounts. He didn't buy equal quintals, he didn't buy equal grams, right? He invested equal amounts. So best way to do this is to see the percentage change. If you work with the numbers as it is, then the numbers are different. If you're thinking that, okay, he's going to invest 1700 in arhar, then he needs to invest exactly 1700 in gold. So instead, if I work with percentage change, then I can straight away assume that he's investing 100 rupees in each of them. Right? And find the percentage change in each of them, and then you can just divide, add, and right? You'll get the answer. So let's do that. Let's find the percentage change in each of them. Okay? So you start with 1700. ये तो 25% change है that we had worked out. Right? This change is 750 on 18500. Correct? So this is less than, in fact, 10% is 1850. This is less than 9%. So let's see, 37. And we will take this as 37 into 3, 10. Oops. 4 se thoda zyada, right? So we'll take this as 4%. For sugar, you in fact have a slight dip. You have a dip of 10 on 1440, 1 on 44, right? So that is close to around 0.6%, which is a minus. Okay, and gold is starting with 4250, ending with 3850. So that's a 400 on 4250. Again, this is a negative, there's a drop, right? And this works out close to 8.5, 8.9%. Can we take 9%? Yeah, we can. So let's take 9%. So you have close to 29 minus 9.6. So 19% के आसपास divided by 4 commodities. You have invested across all these 4 commodities. That comes to 5%, right? And hence your answer here is a 5.4% profit. Because overall, you have a profit, right? You have a very high 25% in Arhar. So the negatives are taken care of because of that, right? Great. Let's look at price volatility of the commodity with the highest price volatility during the February-July period is approximately equal to. So here we had found the lowest. Now we want to find the highest and we want to find also its value. Okay. So let's get rid of all this. So what is price volatility, guys? It was the difference of highest and lowest divided by the average. So of course sugar is the lowest. This is out of the picture. Arhar otherwise is the one with a lower base. So 1500 is the lowest, highest is 2300, that's 800 on an average of 1900. Right, so this is close to, if I look at 10% as 190, this is a little more than 40%. Okay, coming back to now pepper, lowest is around 17,400 and highest is 19,400. So that's 2100 divided by 18,500. तो इसका 10% से थोड़ा ज़्यादा है. So obviously higher is Arhar. Gold का difference is 4,300 and 3,800, 500 on 4,050, a little more than 10%. So as we suspected, highest is Arhar and it is close to 40%. So answer is option B. Great, guys. Let's see. Next, you have, again, as I said, it's really been a lot of calculation intensive sets. You now have, again, actual data. So CAT has done this a lot of times. It has come out with actual data time and again. You have data on the percentage of population that gets, when you say covered, it means they can get that water. They have sources where they can get drinking water. And they also have sanitation facilities. So, ये breakup दिया है कि India has drinking water for 85% of its urban population, 79% of its rural population, and 81% of its total population. So, obviously, some combination of rural and urban and rural, right, give us the total. And of course, I'm sure we are all comfortable with mixtures and allegations. You can find out the ratio of urban and rural based on this. तो एक तो ये है. सेकंड, वैसा ही हमें सैनिटेशन फैसिलिटीज के लिए भी वी हैव परसेंटेजेस के अगर 100 लोग हैं इन अर्बन एरिया, 70 ऑफ देम कैन एक्सेस प्रॉपर टॉयलेट्स, प्रॉपर sewage facilities, and whereas in rural only 14% have this and overall 29% have this. And this is not just for India, you have this data for a lot of other Asian countries, Bangladesh, China, Pakistan, Philippines, Indonesia, Sri Lanka and Nepal. So this data is one thing. Now there are some terms. Country A is said to dominate B or A is greater than B if A has a higher percentage in total coverage for both. Total high hona chahiye for drinking also and for sanitation also. And at the same time, if A is said to dominate B, B is said to be dominated by A. So A greater than B is the same as B greater than A. This statement means the same thing. So this is one definition. What is domination, right? Another is said to be on the coverage frontier if no other country dominates it. That means it is the highest in terms of total drinking water and total sanitation facilities. So, there is an interesting thing here. A country that has highest in both will obviously be on the coverage frontier. But that is not a sufficient condition. I mean, at the same time, I can have a country that is second or third in sanitation facilities, but in drinking water, if it is the highest, that means no country can dominate it. So even individually, if they're highest in one, then, for domination, I need the other country to be higher in both, right? So it's not a very simple कि highest है दोनों में तो ही coverage frontier पे है, single में भी highest है तो भी it is okay, right? So let's check questions now, guys. Let me just clean this up. Which countries are the countries on the coverage frontier? So instead of checking for all, what we'll do is I want to find out some countries, right? जिसके checking पे I can eliminate options. But here, if you can see, all the options are completely mutually exclusive. So India और कहीं नहीं है. यहाँ पे India and China है, Philippines, Bangladesh. So let us just quickly then check which are the highest countries on any of them. And they cannot be dominated by any other, correct? So if I look at highest for drinking water, it is Bangladesh. So nobody can dominate Bangladesh in terms of drinking water. In terms of sanitation, the highest is Philippines. So nobody can dominate. If Philippines cannot be dominated in sanitation, how can it be, dominated in both of them? So Bangladesh and Philippines definitely will be on the coverage frontier. So yeah, thankfully they're in the same option. So we know we are on the right track, right? Answer is C. Which of the following statements are true? So, and एक statement में दो तीन है कहीं कहीं, right? And then options also have a combination. So, what we'll do? We'll check for A or D. So why A or D? Okay, let me just give you the logic here. If I check for A and A is true, then I straight away break the options into two categories. The answer can be A or C. And if A is false, then B or D. बराबर ना? But A में मुझे दो चीजें check करनी है. Instead, if I check for B, again I have the same कि B and D, B, C and D. Or D के लिए I just need to check one thing. So that's what we'll do. We'll check for China and Nepal. कि does China dominate Nepal? Okay. So China and Nepal में China is greater in drinking water. China is greater in drinking water. And in sanitation facilities also China is greater than Nepal. So China does dominate Nepal in both drinking water and sanitation facilities. So China is greater than Nepal, which means D is true. If D is true, guys, that means I can eliminate two options. Correct? A and C, जहाँ पे D नहीं है, वो answer नहीं हो सकता. So it is B and D and B, C and D. So you can see how we are reducing our work, right? Instead of checking for all four, which means I'll need to check for a lot of them. So अभी B तो दोनों में है, so now I just need to check for C. Does Sri Lanka dominate China or not? So Sri Lanka and China, let me see. We are checking for Sri Lanka dominating China. So Sri Lanka का तो इधर ही problem हो गया, तो Sri Lanka does not dominate China, right? And hence C is false, which means that option B can be eliminated, and hence the answer is option B. Using only the data presented under sanitation facilities columns, it can be concluded that rural population in India as a percentage of its total population is approximately how much? So यहाँ पे we have to use mixtures and allegations. Okay. So sanitation and India का मुझे ये करना है. Okay, what is the ratio? So how are we mixing? We are mixing 70 in rural with 14 in urban, right? 70 in urban with 14 in rural to get a total of 29. तो ये हो गया 15 और ये हो गया, if I look at 30, 41. So I want urban or I want rural. Let's just quickly check. I want rural as a percentage of total, which means we are looking at 41 out of 56. Right? If the urban rural is 41 out of the total population of 56, right? Total is 41 plus 15. So I want to find this as a percentage. If I had 42 by 56, that percentage would have been 75%. So 75 se thoda kam is what we want, and hence answer is 73%. Again, using only sanitation, sequence China, Indonesia, Philippines in ascending order of rural population. So chota rural population will come first and then bada, right? So China, Indonesia, Philippines. Okay, उसका तीनों का मुझे rural as a percentage of total करना है. So let's write down the three: China, Indonesia, Philippines. So China का क्या है? Sanitation facilities. 74 is mixing with 7 to give us 24. So this is 17, right? And this is 50. So rural as a percentage of total is 50 over 67. I can see this as 200 by 3. Right? 67 is 200 by 3. So the 3 goes on top and we have 75%. That is China. For Indonesia, what are we mixing? We are mixing 73 with 40 to get 51. So urban is 11 and this is 22. Oh, this is so nice. I like such numbers, right? This is 66.66, 22 over 33. So Indonesia is lower than China. Finally, Philippines. Oh, this is nothing to do here. Philippines is at exactly 50%. 88 or 66 ke beecho beech hai 77. So the smallest is Philippines. Smallest in terms of rural population, it has 50%. Then Indonesia, right? So it's Philippines, Indonesia, and then China, right? So let's look at options. Philippines, Indonesia, China, it's the first option. Great, let's look at the next question. This is a continuation. So you have had 7 questions on this set. India is not on the coverage frontier because. So we know Philippines and Bangladesh are dominating, right, on the coverage frontier. So lower than Bangladesh ho sakta hai, right, in terms of drinking water facilities, right. So A is definitely true because it is lower than Bangladesh in terms of coverage of drinking water facilities. Now it has to be lower than something else also, right, for sanitation. Okay. And let's check whether it's dominated by Indonesia or not. So if I check Indonesia, it is not dominated by Indonesia because even in drinking water it is out, right? So coming back to Sri Lanka and Pakistan in terms of sanitation, Pakistan has better sanitation and Sri Lanka also has better sanitation. But the thing is that Pakistan does not have better drinking water and it does not have, neither does Sri Lanka have. So it is not on the coverage frontier because some country has to dominate it in both respects, and that country is Bangladesh. Right? Bangladesh is dominating for drinking also and sanitation also. Is there any other country that's doing this both? It's again Philippines. Otherwise, no other country. So it is not on the coverage frontier because of option D, because of Bangladesh and Philippines, not because of the single. You need to be dominated on both. So answer is option D, none of these. Right? Because it has to be dominated by both, by the same country on both the parameters, not just on one. So these relate to the above table that the gap between the population coverages of sanitation facilities and drinking water facilities is a measure of disparity in coverage. Whoops. So what does this mean? Okay. So there is a rural sector, there is an urban sector. Correct? Now there is a difference in the coverage between the two parameters. So for example, if I look at India, उसका urban sector में drinking water coverage is 18 and rural sector में and urban in sanitation it is 17. So the disparity in the urban sector, disparity in the urban sector for India is the difference in the urban sector numbers for the two parameters. It is 15. Rural में, so these are very, now once you understand what it is, right, these numbers are very easy to calculate. Rural में that difference is 65, which is 75 and 79 and 14 का difference. Okay, so Bangladesh ka urban disparity is around 20, 99 and 79, and rural disparity is quite high. It is 52. And so on and so forth. So we have understood what this means. Now we have to look at the questions. Most disparity in coverage of rural sector. So I want to find the maximum difference in the rural sector. So we already have India with 65. Is there anything greater than 65, right? We have India 79 and 14 ka difference. This is also not as high as 65. It already 69 pe hai. Here also this is small, 10, 48. So India has the highest disparity in the rural sector. I want the least disparity in the urban sector. So smallest difference in the urban sector. We already again have India at 15. Is there anything smaller than 15? Yes, you have Pakistan with 5. You have Philippines with 4. That's your answer, guys. Philippines with 4. So Philippines has the lowest disparity. Great, guys. Okay, so let's move on to some data sufficiency now. So guys, as usual, always first spend time with the directions. Can be answered by any one of the statements alone, but not with the other. You'll mark A. Either statement alone is B, right? Both statements together is C. And if I need more information, that is D. Okay, so let's start off with the stem. As I always say, pehle we'll look at the stem. Then we'll look at statement 1 alone. Whether it is sufficient, whether it is not sufficient, we will always look at statement 2 alone. If both are individually sufficient, we'll mark B. If yahan se one is sufficient, second is not. First is not sufficient, second is, we'll mark A. Only if both are not sufficient, will we look at them together. And if that is sufficient, C. If that is not sufficient, D. Right? So that this plan should be very clear in your head. So great, let's look at the first question. The average weight of students in a class is 50 kilos. How many students are there in the class? So I have the average and I want to find the number of students. If I have the sum, I could find it. The heaviest and lightest members of the class weigh 60 and 40. So I can have, 60, 40, 60, 40 as many times as I want. Or I can have a lot of 50s in the middle. It doesn't matter. So one alone is not sufficient. Exclusion of the heaviest and the lightest does not change. Of course, it will not change because the heaviest plus lightest ka average is 50. So this doesn't give us any extra information, guys. It doesn't give us any information, right? So answer is D, because even together it is not helping. A small storage tank is spherical in shape. What is the storage volume of the tank? I like all these questions in data sufficiency because I don't need to find the answer. Okay. So wall thickness is 1 centimeter. So this is your spherical tank. उसका 1 centimeter का thickness है. पर अंदर का radius, बाहर का radius कुछ पता नहीं है. So we cannot find the storage volume. One alone not sufficient. When an empty spherical tank is immersed in a large tank filled with water, 20 liters of water overflow from the large tank. So ये पूरे का volume is 20 liters. But अंदर का we don't know because we don't know the thickness. So 2 alone not sufficient. Together, I know that this is 20 liters. Correct? And this is 1 centimeter. So together we'll be able to find out. Right? So if I say R is one of the radii, the other radii is R plus 1. So the volume of the spherical tank, right, Bhar wala will be 4 by 3 pi R cube, which is R plus 1 cube. And then under wala it is going to be R cube. And this will give you a unique solution. Thankfully, we don't need to solve it. So answer here is C. Okay, great. Next. Mr. X starts walking northwards along the boundary of a field from point A on the boundary, and after walking for 150 meters, reaches B. Okay, so you have the boundary of a field. तो वो नॉर्थ में चलते हैं and 150 meters के बाद he reaches B. Then walks westwards. West is this side. Again, 100 meters when he reaches C. What is the maximum distance between any pair of points on the boundary of the field? अरे पर I need to know कि field कैसा दिखता है कि are these the endpoints? If I know कि A and C are the endpoints, I can still find out, but I don't know that. Okay, so this is not sufficient by itself, of course. Field is rectangular in shape, so that's nice. Okay, it's a rectangle. Okay, but where A and C are, I don't know. So 1 alone, not sufficient. 2 alone is a polygon with C as one of its vertices and A as the midpoint of a side. But again, वो कौन सा polygon है? Correct? We are not sure. But together we know it's rectangular. So this is C. This is one of the vertices. This is the midpoint here, A. Correct? And you have 150. So this is whole thing is 300. And this is 100. So you can find out the maximum. Right? So answer is C. A line graph on a graph sheet shows the revenue for each year from 1990 to 1998 by points and joins the successive points by straight line segments. The point for revenue of 1990 is labeled A, that for 91 as B, and that for 92 as C. What is the ratio of growth in revenue between 91-92 and 90-91? Okay, so let me just get this very clear. So you have a line graph. 1990 ka revenue is labeled as A, and then 91 is B, and 92 is C. Okay, and I need to find the growth 91-92 ka and 90-91 ka. So I need to find how these lines are connected, how these dots are connected. Okay, now angle between AB and x-axis when measured with a protractor is 40 degrees. Okay, so it's going to be something like this. Instead of B being here, it's going to be slightly higher up. So if I just draw this line, this is going to be 40 degrees. I'll just draw a line parallel to the x-axis. Okay, and ये है 40 degrees. This has a steeper slope. It has an 80 degree slope. But to find out the exact ratio, I need some values. Just knowing 40 degrees, 80 degrees is not sufficient. The scale of y-axis is 1 centimeter, which is equal to rupees 100. So how is this helpful, right? 1 centimeter is rupees 100, 200. I just want the ratio. So 2 is not helpful, right? I don't want absolute values, I want the ratio. So again, let me just spend some time and tell you all how you'll not find the percentage growth by just having the angle. So let's look at the simplest line, x equal to y. Okay, so you pick up one point here. This is a line that's making 45 degrees. You pick up one point here. Let's say this point is 5, 5. Correct? Now the next point here is going to be 10, 10. And uske aage I'll get 15, 15. Now from 5, 5 to 10, 10, the growth, it's doubling. It's 100% growth. Is it always going to be 100%? From 10, 10 to 15, 15, and it's the same gap, right? I'm not really increasing the gap. It is the same gap of 5. Now the percentage growth becomes 50%. So I hope we can see why ye angle is not enough. I need to know some values to know the percentage growth rate. So here the answer is K, A is not sufficient. Anyways, B is not giving us anything. So answer is D. Right? Great guys, let's move on to the next question. There is a circle with center C at the origin and radius r centimeter. Okay. Center is C and radius is r. Two tangents are drawn from an external point D at a distance of d centimeter from the center. What are the angles between each tangent and the x-axis? तो ये एक एंगल है और ये होगा दूसरा एंगल. The coordinates of D are given, but I can draw numerous tangents from D across a circle. It depends on where the center is. So the thing is, yeah, you should try and say, can I fix the whole graph? Can I fix the tangents? Once I fix the tangents, I'll be able to find the angles. But if I can't fix the tangents, I cannot find the angles. Correct? So coordinates of D are given. Great, I fixed D. But as long as I don't fix C, my tangents can go anywhere. So one alone is not sufficient. X-axis bisects one of the tangents. Okay. So bisecting a tangent means the x-axis is coming right in the middle. Which means this length and this length are equal. Now, even without knowing the coordinates of D, you can presume, right, that this bisection can take place in a lot of different slopes. I can have a line that is even perpendicular, right? Even the y-axis, the tangent could be the y-axis and the x-axis is bisecting it in the middle. So the angle is not fixed. So 2 alone is also not sufficient. But with the B, D is fixed, correct? And the bisection, say I can find out x, 0 is the other side. I can fix the tangent now. And once I fix one, the other tangent also becomes fixed. And together you'll be able to solve. Answer is option C. For a pair of real numbers, x and y, that satisfy the following two equations simultaneously, it is known are non-zero. Find a pair of x and y, right? You have to find x and y given this set of equations. None of them are zero. So A is equal to KD, is का multiple, B is equal to KE, and C is equal to KF, That means they are the same equation, which means I have infinite values. So I cannot find a pair of real, a single pair I cannot find. I can find a lot of pairs. So one alone is not sufficient. A is equal to B is equal to 1. So I have x plus y is equal to C. So 2x plus 2y is equal to f. And f is not equal to 2c. So now using this alone, I'll be able to find x and y in terms of c and f. So 2 alone is sufficient. See, anyways, you can't see them together because they're giving data that is completely different from each other. Right? So 2 alone is sufficient. So here we will mark option A. 3 professors are separately given 3 set of numbers to add. They were expected to find the answers of 1 plus 1, 1 plus 1 plus 2 and 1 plus 1 respectively. Their respective answers were 3, 3 and 2. How many of the professors are mathematicians? A mathematician can never add 2 numbers correctly, but can always add 3 numbers correctly. That means a mathematician, right? Because the first professor has got this wrong, doesn't mean he's a mathematician. But the second professor has got this also wrong, so he is not a mathematician. The third professor has got this right, so he is also not a mathematician, right? So I can know that B and C, but I can't say anything about A, so 1 alone is not sufficient. When a mathematician makes a mistake in a sum, the error is plus 1 or minus 1. So here if you see the error, correct? It's a plus 1 error. Here there's a minus 1 error and here there is no error. Okay, so when the mathematician makes a mistake, I know what to do. But what if he or she doesn't make a mistake, right? Then what do? You don't know. So 2 alone not sufficient, but together they both become sufficient. So answer here is option C, right? Great. Next one. How many students among A, B, C, D have passed the examination? The following is a true statement. A and B passed the examination. Okay, but I know nothing about C and D. The following is a false statement. At least one among C and D has passed the examination. So अगर ये wrong है, that means none have passed. But again, I don't know anything about A and B. Together, of course, I know everything about A, B, C, D. So answer is C. What is the distance x between two cities A and B in integral number of kilometers? So first statement tells us that 2 root x is equal to x. Right? Log means logs gives you the index. So 2 raised to root x is equal to x. When does this work? It works for 2 raised to 0. No, it does not. It works for 2 raised to 1. No, it does not. But it works for 2 square, right? So 2 raised to root 4 is equal to 4. It also works for 2 raised to root 16 is equal to 16. So 1 alone is not sufficient. 2 alone not sufficient, but together you can see that answer has to be 4. So answer is C. Mr. Mendel grew 100 flowering plants from black seeds and white seeds, each seed giving rise to 1 plant. A plant gives color of only 1 color. From a black seed comes a plant giving red or blue. From a white, it is red or white. How many black seeds were used by Mr. Mendel? The number of plants with white flowers was 10. This alone tells us white kahan se aayega? White aayega because of white seeds. So there were 10 white seeds. But I could have some red coming from white seeds. So this will not straight away give me how many white seeds. 2 alone tells me that there were 70 of red flowers. But do I know how many white or how many blue? No, I don't know. right? So this is alone not sufficient. Together, I know that the 3 flower types are red, blue, or white. 10 are white. Blue has to be 20 because there are 100 plants. And red has to be 70. So there are at least 20 black seeds because there are 20 blue. And there are 10 white at least. Abhi ye 70 can be broken up in any direction. So together also this is not sufficient. So answer is D. Right? Great guys, let us do a bonus set now. A group of singers is chosen from a group of applicants. However, in order to accentuate the attributes of the future singing group, some applicants must be selected along with other applicants. The following constraints apply to the singers who are chosen from a group of applicants A to H. If H is not chosen, then E is chosen. If D is chosen, then F, C and A are chosen. So let me just make one diagram here. If D is chosen, so F can be chosen, C can be chosen, A can be chosen. But if A is chosen, so D means that A is chosen, A means that B is chosen, F is chosen and G is chosen. So यहाँ पे F common हो रहा है. So let me just get all this properly. So D means C or A, right? So we are just doing these two together. A means B, F and G. And if G is chosen, that means E is not chosen. Now coming back to this, H is not chosen. So H is not chosen. So E is chosen. Now if E is chosen, G is not chosen. Right? So let me just, yeah. And if G is not chosen, then all these others, A is not chosen, right? F is not chosen, B is not chosen. And if A is not chosen, D is also not chosen. So we have got these two major diagrams to work with, okay? Which of the following could be a complete list of the singers who are chosen? So I can have DAC, BFG, which is not here. The other is I can select E, right? Which means there is no H. So options B and C go off, right? And we can just have AFGH, AFG, but H cannot go with that. BFGH, right? So BFG can go with H. Because if E is not chosen, H is chosen, right? Let me just add that here, that if E is not chosen, H is chosen. So if I go with BFG, no E and H is chosen. Answer is option D. If G is not chosen, then which of the following could be true? So G is not chosen, that means you are looking at this, right? So B and A are chosen? No. If G is not chosen, then B and A are also not chosen. C and F are chosen? F is not chosen, so how can C be? Like, so that is also out. D and B are chosen. E and H are chosen. So if E is chosen, right, H can be chosen. If E is not chosen, then H has to be chosen. But I can have E chosen without E and H both chosen, right? Because H not chosen implies E, not vice versa. So answer is option D. If E is selected, then which of the following is the complete group who must not be chosen? So G, A, F, B, and even D. G, A, F, B, and even D, right? So answer is option C. How many people at most could be chosen for the singing group? So to get maximum people, this is the graph we need to work with. So I can have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 people chosen. So answer is option C, 7 people. If F is selected, then which of the following could not be true? So F is selected in this scenario. A can be selected with F. So this can be true. D is selected and H is not selected. D is selected and H is not selected, but H has to be selected if F is selected, right? So C is false because H has to be selected. If E is selected, then who could not be chosen? So we already have this. E is selected, that means G, A, F, B. F is not selected, right? Frank is not selected. Great, guys. So let's do this set. We are already running a little short on time. Let's do this set in our next DILR session, right? This is your bonus puzzle. For next session, you are given x and y. They can be any integers. You have to prove that the difference between these expressions, which is what, x cube plus y minus x minus y cube, this can be written as a multiple of 6. This is what you need to prove, guys. And I'll see you again tomorrow morning at 12:30 when we'll do some CAT questions on maths, right? And guys, I hope to see you on Unacademy. So please, explore the Unacademy platform and you'll realize what I mean by saying that it's really one of the best environments to study from, right? So once you start exploring the platform, you'll see that there are live polls during lectures, which means students can answer straight away and they know how they are performing, right? And leaderboards are also there at the end of every session, which lets you know how the bunch of students have performed together. Along with that, we take regular test series with analysis. Analysis is taken by great professors. And you have live doubt solving. So, in general doubt solving, you just type in an answer. You can actually put in an image, and that image can be used by the instructor to solve, right? So, these are some great features that Unacademy provides. Besides that, as I have told you, we have the National Scholarship Test running. So, every Sunday, we have from 5 to 5:40. We have a section that's taken up as a test, and this test is, as I said, structured by experts. You get a lot of analysis, you get a relevant rank, and you may even win a voucher, right? Voucher, right? Wouldn't that be wow? So guys, please enroll for the test as soon as you can. I'm also starting a plus batch from November 4th where I'll be doing LRDI every night, 7:30 to 9 in the evening. So I hope to see you for that batch as well. Which subscription to go for, guys? Well, if you're focused on CAT 2020, you can look at the 6-month subscription. I know that the CAT is really just a month away, but after that you have the XAT, you have the NMAT, you have the CET. तो 6-7 महीने तो वो सब में ही GDPI वो सब में निकल जाएंगे. And we'll be there to guide you every step of the way, guys, right? If you're confused between 20 and 21, or if you're focused on CAT 21, then you should look at the 2-year package. Then really it works out to something very negligible on a per month basis. And to top it all, guys, you can use my code and then it becomes more negligible, right? So my code is Munira10. You'll get a great discount with that. I hope to see you soon on the Unacademy platform, guys. Take care. See you tomorrow.